When Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela went to school for the first time, the first member of his family to do so, he did not know that he would become the symbol of hope for a better education and a better future for millions in South Africa and the rest of the world. David James Smith writes in his book Young Mandela that Madiba himself pointed out that both his father and mother were illiterate, had no formal schooling and never learned to read or write, but that they certainly were not ignorant and had great wisdom, and that they supported and encouraged his education. He went to school at the age of about 7. His father realized that his son had a vision and a dream from an early age to help and lead his people. He asked the Tembu chief, Jongintaba Dalinjebu, on his deathbed to take care of his son and give him an education. Since then, education always played a most important role in Madiba's life. Even on Robben Island, he kept studying and inspired those around him to do so. After he was freed, long before he became president, he started working tirelessly to improve the quality of education for all in the country.
Education is one of the most important weapons in a country, and the extent to which black education is neglected is something very difficult to put in words. We wanted to transform education into a national asset, into an instrument we can use for development.
He asked young South Africans to help him in building a new South Africa.
You are going to remain in the country rather than to take away technology and skills away to serve other countries and other communities. We really need people who have had the opportunities to remain in this country and to serve our people.
Madiba believed that investing in education meant investing in a prosperous future. His vision inspired major companies to answer to his call for partnerships to tackle education challenges in the country.
Vandaag het ek hier meneer Don Vossel. He has a lot of money. He can buy this town if he wants to. But he is here to see what he can do for you.
He crisscrossed the country in his quest for a better education for all. Many from South Africa and overseas joined hands with him and helped building schools, classrooms and libraries, providing teaching media and bursaries, renovating schools and uplifting communities.
Sometime last year, I read in the media that there was a school here under a tree, and that the teacher was looking for a second tree because the class had grown bigger. Fortunately, the next day, the head of BP throughout the world, Mr. Brown, came to pay a courtesy visit, and I drew his attention to this report, and I asked if I could bring him here so that we could see this school under a tree. He told me he was leaving that very day, but that the head of BP here, Mr. Paswana, would accompany me to Soshanguve. I then phoned Mrs. Mary Metcalf, who was at that time the MEC for Education in Gauteng. And I indicated to her that I was coming to see the school under a tree. Well, she corrected me. She said, no, it's not a school under one tree. There are about 1,100 children schooling under a number of trees. But of course, the school was becoming bigger, and they wanted a proper accommodation. I then phoned Mr. Ray Ackerman of Pick and Pay, and I said I did not want to come here with empty hands. Could he organize some sweets, sandwiches, and so on, which I could bring for the children? Mr. Ackerman did a very good job. We had a very big truck which brought some delicacies to the children. That is the history of the school.
Madiba constantly reminded those who received that they also had a role and responsibility.
Now you must show that you appreciate this culture, and the young people will appreciate it by studying very hard and make sure that at the end of the year you pass with honors, with distinction.
His message also included the leaders of communities he visited.
The best way to make sure that people divert their attention from crime is for you to start some projects. It doesn't matter how poor you may be, how much you lack education. You can serve your community.
In 2007, Nelson Mandela founded the Nelson Mandela Institute at Fort Hare to take forward his work in education and rural development in South Africa and beyond. It is a partnership between the Nelson Mandela Foundation, the Department of Education, the University of Fort Hare, UNICEF, and the Hamburg Society of the Schools for Africa campaign. It focuses on the transformation of education and rural development through applied research, teacher and leadership development, community mobilization, and by building sustainable public institutions. Nelson Mandela received more than 1,000 awards and honors in his lifetime. More than 25 schools, universities and educational institutions carry his name, while more than 19 bursaries, scholarships and foundations have also been named after him. In 2010, 6 universities in the Laureate International Universities Network awarded him an honorary degree for, as they put it, showing the world the better side of humanity, and for his grace, integrity and unrelenting determination to demonstrate the potential in every person to effect positive change. The world can honor Madiba and his legacy by remembering his words that education is the great engine of personal development, that it is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can become the head of the mine, that a child of farm workers can become the president of a great nation, that it is what we make out of what we have, not what we are given, that separates one person from another.